Hey, what's going on, everyone? Brad here from Preeminent Practice. And today in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some very important things that I've learned through the course of the past couple months and years of really investing into Facebook, Google, and other social paid ads. So most of you know I've been heavily investing into Facebook ads, Google, YouTube, and so on for new patient acquisition for years now. And I've spent well over $600,000 on my own clinics alone. So unlike a lot of agencies or these other coaches and that kind of thing who are teaching you theory or something they read it on a Facebook group or something that sounds cool, I've actually done it, put in the work, spent my own money in being able to do this. So during this time, I've tested pretty much every angle, option, offer, strategy out there in order to refine my process down to what I call evergreen. Evergreen meaning consistent. So evergreen is kind of where you want to get your ads because you know that if I spend a certain amount of money, I'm going to get a certain amount of leads and the conversion process is going to be a certain amount of people going into it. So I know if I spend, $100 on an ad, I'm going to get X number of leads and it's going to equate to, 2,000 or 3,000 or whatever it may be in terms of revenue. So some of the strategies that I've done have worked really, really, really well. Some strategies have worked okay. And I mean, there's a ton of strategies that don't really work at all, or there were other inefficiencies in that process that needed to be tightened up, like sales process or, what the offer was and that kind of thing. So recently I recorded like my 7 lessons for spending over $350,000 on Facebook ads for my own clinic. And I go into detail about each one of these lessons. So if you want to watch that video, you can just comment below or click the link below. We'll put something into the chat so you can watch that video. So I'm going to go through a bit of the Coles Note version today, just so that way you guys can take a couple of these quick points out. So note, these are in no particular order. Don't think you have to start from the top. It's just they're an overview. So the first thing, we'll talk a little bit about Facebook ad in this video because I get a lot of questions on that. So the first thing is for Facebook ad, we got to realize what the purpose of Facebook ad is. So Facebook ad, disruptive marketing, people are scrolling through Facebook. We need to get their attention captured. Now, how we do this is using and testing our image video creative, or what we call creative in marketing. About 80% effectiveness of your Facebook ad comes down to being able to stop the scroll. That's a stat from a world-class marketer, Nick Kuzmich, who says, if you can't get people to stop the scroll, your ad's obviously not going to be effective, which is very true. So if people are scrolling the newsfeed, you've got to pattern interrupt them to get them to stop. If they don't stop, they're not going to read your ad and you have the best offer in the world, but they're not going to be able to see it. So it's incredibly important to test for Facebook ads, specifically the image creative, because that's going to be a huge component. So to do this, I use a variety of different images, videos, headlines. You can watch the video for more in-depth examples and whatnot. But generally, if I'm doing a brand new testing campaign, I'll test 2 images that are going to elicit a positive emotion, 2 that elicit a negative, 2 that are some sort of medical, like you treating, an X-ray or something along those lines, and 2 text-based images that kind of restate what the offer is or the pain point or one of those things. So that's the first thing that I look at doing. The next is our headlines. And where a lot of people get this wrong is they use like one headline, and you'll see this with the agency template. Hey, gym goers of this area. Hey, we're doing something amazing for the community of X or whatever. And the reality is that once you stop the person from scrolling with the image, the next thing that person is going to read is the headline of the primary text. So you need to be able to compel the person to want to actually read the ad. And in most scenarios, it's not going to display the entire ad. They have to click to see more, read more, whatever it is. They'll be like ... So if I just use one variation, then what's going to happen is I'm only going to attract, the specific people who are going to be responsive to that ad. So I like to test different headlines. I've got about 25 or so different headlines that I sort of pull from, or different angles based on the psychological triggers, in order to create interest and to improve the conversions by creating the curiosity and so on. So next thing that we want to be able to make sure that we really nail with ads, and this is just the same with Facebook, YouTube, Google, whatever it is it's psychological triggers. So we want to take one angle of an ad, for example, And we want to expand on it, because if you only have one angle, meaning, hey, gym goers with shoulder pain or whatever, hey, you got back pain or something, you want help. The problem is, runners of this area, the problem is you're going to burn through your audience quick. And this is generally what we see as higher frequency, or the ad will work for a period of time and then it will start to drop off or taper in terms of performance. So when we're looking at psychological triggers, we want to make sure that we are getting different angles of what these people would be at. So for example, a psychological trigger for someone who has, let's say, back pain. Well, one person, their motivating psychological trigger is, hey, I want to not feel like my body's falling apart. I want, I'm getting made fun of when I'm going to play sports. I'm always the old guy. I'm falling apart. I don't want to be that anymore. That might be a trigger for that person to want to take action. Whereas someone else might say, hey, you know what? I'm definitely afraid that I'm going to have to take medications or have this, surgery that my dad had and it got botched or something like that. So then you've got a person whose motivation or their psychological triggers to wanting to actually get help and follow the process is going to be different. So I could take those psychological triggers and those two different examples and create different headlines. And the headlines are going to speak to people differently. So in the second variation where the person, for example, would say, hey, I want to avoid medication surgeries, we could say something along the lines in potentially a headline that says something where we're addressing the medications and surgery. So it could be like, hoping back pain will go away with medications, and something along those lines is kind of like an opener that we could use. Using medications to overcome back pain is not a very efficient way or not a very effective way to overcome back pain. So that's how we would be able to extrapolate a little bit more of the triggers that would motivate people, which means your ads are going to run longer. So similarly to what I said before, understanding that process and just kind of what we talked about, more specifically for Facebook ads, is the purpose of Facebook ads really just to get the click. And a lot of people think that, hey, the whole Facebook ad is going to sell everything and it's going to be amazing. I put this ad out there and we get lots of people. The reality is like your Facebook ad is to get the click. If you're sending them to a landing page or a lead form, whatever, it's to get them to take the action. So the click, whether that sends them to a landing page, whether that's a lead form, whether that's watching a video, going to a blog, whatever your specific purpose is, the whole goal of that ad is to get the person to take a click. So if we break down the actual components, we need to get someone to stop the scroll. We need to get them to read the headline, and then we need to get them to be interested enough with the offer that they're going to take the action and click through to it. And then we know that like our landing pages or our sales process, like calling someone or whatever is a different part of the process, which you need to have congruence across. So next things here, guys, I've got a couple more that are really important. The next one is tracking. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see with practitioners is they don't actually track key metrics for specific campaigns. Without appropriate tracking, you're never going to be able to identify areas of opportunity, and you're always going to be limited with scaling your ads. So I created this profitable marketing calculator. It's in the Facebook group, so you can grab it from there. And I have a video kind of going through how to manage it and stuff. And a lot of agency owners and stuff, I've presented this with them, and they actually created and put it a part of their programs now because there was such limited tracking ability. So tracking is a key thing here, because sometimes ads look really good on paper, but when you look at the conversions or you look at some of the other metrics, cost per lead is really low and so on, but like the conversions are not so great. Whereas other campaigns look like the cost is really high and you should probably turn that one off. But when you look at the conversions, it's they're really good. So I have a scenario where I've got a chiropractor doing decompression, and they do massage. They do like higher end packages. Usually the person's spending somewhere between like $5,500 and $5,800 for like a program with them. So if you look at the ads, some of the ad costs were, $125-ish, $130 per lead, where, you look at that and be like, wow, that's a lot of money. But, they're converting 2 to 3 people off of that a month. So yeah, the lead cost is high, but they're generating a massive amount of revenue from these patients. So it's very important to track like what campaigns specifically people are converting from, which is one of the things that I always do with my clients to make sure that everything is set up. And obviously we can make better decisions on what ads are working, and more importantly, why are they not working? Next thing that we really look at here, again, these are in no particular order, but a really, really important one is offers. Using the same offer without intent-based targeting that we talked about above is just bound to get a bunch of unqualified people chasing you down to get booked in. The typical agency, $27, $47, $57, regular $250, you get it for $47 in the next, 3 days. They tend to lose steam fast. And the reality is that when you are using those offers, you're getting people to take action based on the pricing and not necessarily having them qualify. So that's why we will use things like the psychological triggers, and then tailoring the headlines from the psychological triggers, and then crafting the image or creative that you're using to build more of that, like build more and tie more into the offer, so that you've got people who are going to be more qualified who are coming in. Because, brick and mortar businesses, if you're running Facebook ads, for example, like you can't really do, even with Google, like you can't really disqualify people per se, or use too much targeting, because you'll end up narrowing people down too much. So it's easier to do broad targeting and then use your language or your creative of how you're actually expressing what the offer is. So, you can run those types of offers. Generally, I find that it's harder to convert those people on the back end. And I use a thing called risk reversal, and I teach that with my clients so that you can charge higher rates. So if I'm charging $295 for an initial visit, which I get people all the time, I need to be able to make sure that person is going to be a quality fit. And offering them a $27 offer, you might get maybe 1 out of 20 people who are going to convert at $300 per session. And, my patient value might be somewhere between $3,500 and $3,600. So I'm not going to be getting a lot of people who are just coming in off the $27 offer. So we have to create different types of offer. One of the biggest things that I do see, even agencies making this error, is follow-up sequences. Dan Kennedy says, he's one of the best direct response marketers, kind of the godfather here. He says the fortune is in the follow-up, and, is he ever right? So, we touched on offers, psychological triggers, headlines, tracking, that kind of stuff. But we know that on average, about 15% of people are ready to take action now for this type of healthcare-based offer, which means you got 85% of people who are not no buyers, but they're buyers in the future potentially. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that, knowing that not everyone is ready to buy now, that we design specific communications and sequences in order to make sure that we either nurture the prospects or provide them with the right information. So that way, when they are ready to take action, we are top of mind, or we've stayed in touch with them onto there. So I design, when I work with clients on their CRM and writing the email marketing, I've got entire follow-up sequences from the initiation of when they first inquire or opt in to all the way into 12 months. So I'm very focused on creating the relationship and staying in touch, because we very often would get people who are 12 months plus who inquired actually coming in. Maybe they come in for a workshop, they book an appointment. The longest one we have is 22 months now, where someone's literally on our email list, text list for like 2 years and almost before they actually took the action to come in. And it was the consistent staying on top of them, reaching out, that kind of thing, until they hit a breaking point. We've had several other people who have been, 12 months plus come back into this. And the reality is, you already spent the money acquiring this lead, or the time. If you're doing something organically, why not nurture the relationship? When I speak to agencies and, coaches who are teaching coaching program, whether it's, how to get more physical therapy patients or chiro or whatever it is, big thing is, like, a lot of them don't do much with the leads after. They hit them hard for maybe a couple of days. Some maybe go into a week or two, but then there's nothing there. The other problem is that they're focusing the relationship on taking action now. So when I write my follow-up sequences, they're designed around, well, why hasn't the person taken the action to begin with? What are the most likely reasons why? So everything is designed more specifically based on the psychological principles of how people would actually operate and buy, instead of just saying, hey, book now, hey, buy this stuff, which most of these agencies and that kind of thing are doing. So follow-up sequencing is really, really important, and also having custom sequence depending on what action someone has taken. So, for example, if someone downloaded a report, the action would be different than if someone inquired about a therapy session. And it would be different than if someone was a past patient. And it would be even different if someone came in for an eval, but didn't buy a plan of care, or someone hasn't been in 3 years. We need to have different sequences for each one. And a lot of people are starting to do reactivation sequences and that kind of stuff, but they don't really understand the principles. Like I said earlier in the video, they're just saying, oh, wow, this thing sounds really cool. I think I'm going to do it with my clients, and pray and hope that it works the best. And the reality is that most of the guys are just kind of recycling content. They don't actually understand the principles behind it. So we need to make sure that we understand the principles when we're putting these sequences together, so that way you're able to get a better result. So listen, guys, we could talk forever on these kind of things. These are quick ones that I find are really impactful. You can change them, you can modify it, and take action today in order to get some more better results with your marketing, get better quality people coming in, understanding the metrics, and just become more profitable in your business. Like I said, I've been spending tens of thousands of dollars on these ads, testing every single sort of thing that I can get to get different results. And I can confidently say that these principles are things that are solid. They've worked for years. They work with all types of clients that I work with, and they'll definitely work for you. So I hope you found this video helpful. And if you're looking at growing your business, dialing in your marketing, understanding these principles a little bit more, and finally getting some results in terms of being able to grow your business, getting better quality patients, then I'd love to be able to speak with you a little bit more on your specific scenario, come up with a bit of a game plan to say, hey, this is where you are now. This is kind of where you want to be. These three things, or these three principles, might be the best fit for you moving forward. So if you're interested in that, you can comment below. And if you're on one of my websites or pages, there should be a link around here somewhere below or beside the video for you to be able to book a quick call with us, understand a little bit about where you are, and help put you guys on the right path. So let me know if you guys have any questions in the meantime, and I appreciate you jumping on. Thanks.